Hi, welcome. I wanted to do this video real quick because I was watching Glenn Beck and he was mocking the duck and cover video from like the 1950s. You know the one I'm talking about where like they show a turtle in its shell and they all get under the desks and they hide from the nuke. His view of this is basically that of like most people I know, including my grandparents and lots of other people, and the view is that, oh, that is ridiculous and you shouldn't do that. Let's talk about nukes and how they work and what they do and what you should do if we are being nuked, basically. And like, is duck and cover really ridiculous? That's the thing I'd like to talk about. And if you are at ground zero, yeah, nothing is going to help you if you're vaporized. But not everywhere in a nuclear strike is ground zero. In fact, most places are not. And that's where this duck and cover shit comes in. They're telling the kids in the 1950s in the schools to do this because they did enough testing to know that nuclear war might kill the planet, might not. We're not really sure. Like there's that's a whole different conversation. But whatever it does, no matter how many nukes are dropped and whether it was enough to kill the planet or not, there's going to be people in like the wreckage and shit, right? And there's going to be this mass humanitarian disaster. And like, if there's any warning at all, getting people into like tornado shelters and bomb shelters and under desks and shit like that will save a substantial portion of the population because not everywhere is going to get vaporized. Okay. Like in a nuclear blast, depending on the size of the nuke, you have an area, anywhere from like a few city blocks to like 20 miles or something like that, maybe at the very biggest, unless you get like the Tsar Bomba or something like that, and then maybe it's even bigger, but like that's not that big compared to the size of the entire United States. Okay. And then like the destroyed radius of like collapsed buildings and shit, that's varies in size from nuke to nuke. But in general, there were shit tons of people that lived in those areas of Nagasaki and Hiroshima. I would expect there to be a similar amount of people to live through whatever other blasts we have. And I think it's very good advice to, no matter where you are, if you start thinking nukes are going off, to get into a fucking shelter. Like, even if it's just going to like the basement and hiding under a desk, that's better than nothing. There were people that lived in Hiroshima that just sat in a ditch. And like the people that didn't sit in the ditch died. Okay. The other thing to consider is if they are ground strikes, there's going to be a shitload of nuclear fallout and it's going to be wind blown. So most targets are going to be airburst strikes in the US because they're going to be trying to eliminate population centers. And like they don't want to irradiate the whole world. So more than likely, most of these aren't going to be ground strikes, but like places like Cheyenne Mountain and all of our nuke sites in the Dakotas and some places in Alaska, those are going to get ground struck pretty fucking heavy. So if you live anywhere near any of those or to the east, northeast of those places, especially, or even depending on where they are, because like if you're in Alaska and Cheyenne Mountain, that's a little bit of a different thing than if you're in the Dakotas. The wind patterns are different, and you need to look at your wind chart and see which direction the fallout's going to go from the most likely closest blast to you. So in my case, I'm in Tulsa, which means we're going to get a direct strike. The closest nuke to me will be a couple of miles, probably. That's because we have an oil refinery here. We have an airport capable of landing C-17s. We have a lot of shit. Basically, we are getting nuked because of infrastructure. This isn't a good place to be. I would prefer to be somewhere else right now, and I'm working on that. If you're in such a location, you should probably look into moving as well. Like, I'm not saying go live out in the boonies or whatever, but pick some place that isn't likely to get nuked, which is mostly the boonies. If you're wondering, oh, how serious is this, World War III shit that's going on? People are talking about. I think this is the most serious it's ever been in our lifetime. I think this is more serious than the Cuban Missile Crisis, what we're going through right now. That's why I'm making videos like this, and there are other videos that I've made on preparing. And I think this one is an important one. The whole duck and cover thing, you absolutely should fucking duck and cover. It's better than nothing. It's not the greatest idea in the world. And now that we've established that and moving on, what should you do? You should be in a place that's not going to get nuked. That's the best advice. There's vast stretches of like the farmland areas of the country that are going to be relatively safe. Nobody really wants to take those out. If you can move to such a location, I would move there. As far as being in a town, you could dig a fallout shelter. It's an option. It's not a good option. It's expensive and it kind of sucks, but it is an option. Like if you have a tornado shelter or a basement, I would start loading that shit with supplies because who knows, you might be stuck there and it's better than nothing again. What I'm doing is building a mobile sleeper van, camper van kind of thing like the van life people have, and I'm getting ready to head for the hills. I don't know when I'm going to be doing that, but sooner rather than later probably. I'd like to figure out how to get internet on that thing and like a few other things. So it might be a year or two even, but like this is an ongoing thing that is going to develop and get worse, in my opinion. At the very least, we're looking at the start of some sort of weird second Cold War. I think in reality, what we're looking at is the US and Russia are about to go hot in Europe for the world. And there's a bunch of reasons for that, but it doesn't really matter. The main thing is that Putin is attacking the petrodollar, and that means we have to go to war, basically. At least the powers that be think we do. And I don't know if we survive this one. Be interesting to see. I think you as an individual have the best chance of making it being somewhere that no one cares about. Go to the desert, the mountains, or like I said, the farmland areas like Kansas. Okay, there's places in the mountains you definitely don't want to be. Also, there's places in the desert you definitely don't want to be. Also, but those areas are probably going to be less affected than other shit. And my recommendation at this point would be to get your ducks in a row, figure out a way to go hide and go hide. There's nothing good that's going to be happening in the United States in the next 2 to 5 years, I'm guessing, maybe even longer. All the shit that's going on is going to give them massive amounts of power to do whatever they want. World War III will be an excuse for them to do anything that they want to do now. And it's going to get dark fast. I'm not exactly sure what their end game is and all that, but like I don't trust them. So maybe you do. Maybe you think, oh, the government's good and whatever. But like I seriously think that there's some like cancer growing within our government that's going to like show itself in this process, and it's going to be like Hydra coming out of fucking Shield and Captain America. Like it's on that level of crazy shit that is going on in the world, in my opinion. Good luck. I hope this helps somebody plan for getting nuked. It's not as bleak as it seems. There are people that lived for 70, 80 years after getting nuked at Hiroshima and Nagasaki. So I wouldn't ever take what everybody says about shit as being the full truth. I think there's a lot of like fear mongering and a lot of idiots that saw a movie once where a nuke went off and now they're fucking experts. I think the really big nukes are probably very unlikely to get used because of how fucking scary they are. That's my thoughts. I hope I'm right. I hope that they aren't stupid enough to fucking push the button in the world. But if they do, it was fun knowing you guys. So. I'll see you later. Enjoy the video.